Welcome to this online extracurricular class brought to you by the Academic Study Skills here at BIM. Today's class is on researching valid, reliable and credible sources. This lesson might help you build on existing academic skills that you might already have in place. However, it might also teach you something that you didn't already know before that you can now use moving forward throughout your study. If you do have any questions, please feel free to email myself, jesskemp@bim.co.uk or donnaberrick@bim.co.uk, and we'll be able to answer any questions that you might have. We'd also love to hear how this lesson's helped you out and whether it's been helpful at all. So please feel free to send us your thoughts and any comments that you've got as well. So first of all, we're going to look at where to search and what to use. So considering your own current study and what you're currently studying, what you might be working on, what you might have worked on in the past, take a second to just stop this PowerPoint and make some notes. Where do you currently search for information? So think about anything that you're working on at the moment, something that you might have worked on in the past, or maybe something that's coming up in the future. Where do you search and which tools do you use to find your information? Okay, so where to search. Now, some of these options that you might have put on your list during that short break may appear here, but here are just some options for you when considering research and where to look. Books are quite an original option, using a library, an e-library, maybe even bookshelf that you've got at home. Books are a good source of information. Peer-reviewed papers and peer-reviewed articles are very academic, very scholarly. We come across these quite a lot during our academic careers. The phrase peer-reviewed means that somebody within that professional field has read it, they've looked at it, they've provided feedback on it, so therefore it's usually quite a reliable and valid source. So that's a good one to use in things like literature reviews, research papers, things like that. Google Scholar and Google Books are both online search engines that you can use. The clue's in the name with Google Scholar. It's quite scholarly, academic, a lot of peer-reviewed papers on there, a lot of university content from lots of different universities. But that's a good one to use, similar to Google Books, although Google Books does tend to have quite a bit of everything on there, not always academic, so do be careful when you're using specific sources off that. EBSCO, you'll have heard of this one, obviously studying at BIM. It's something that we promote quite a lot. We have our own login to EBSCO. You can use that system, find sources, save them, save notes on them, share them with peers and with tutors, and you can also save specific sources and come back to them at a later date as well if that's something that you'll find useful. TED Talks is a good one if you prefer watching and listening to videos. A lot of the people that do TED Talks are professionals within their field, or at least they know what they're talking about, so it's usually a good source to go to sort of start off your search. Can generate quite a lot of good ideas, take some notes while you're watching and listening and that kind of thing. Same as factual documentaries. Depending on sort of where they're from and who's created them and who's directed them and produced them, these can be used. Obviously, they need to be of a certain professional standard and they need to be based on facts in order for you to use them in academic work. A public library is obviously a physical building, physical place you can go, browse the books, use their online system, the search function, and we're going to go over libraries a little bit and just sort of talk about the pros and cons of a library as opposed to just doing all your research sort of remotely or online. Amazon Kindle is a good source, as is Scribd, something that you can subscribe up to and get access to their sources online. Academic journals are similar to peer-reviewed papers in the way that they've been published for the purpose of academia, so that's always a good thing to go for, especially with literature reviews, research papers and dissertations, things like that. And last but not least, and this is a bit of a shocking one, Wikipedia, but not Wikipedia. So you might be a little bit confused at what I've just said there, however I'm going to go over it on the next slide and hopefully it'll make a little bit more sense. Okay, so the issue with Wikipedia then. Here's a small image that sort of explains what happens when a tutor sees a Wikipedia reference in their work. As you can see, it's not a very exciting thing for us to see. We do worry quite a bit because Wikipedia is not academic. It's not been peer reviewed. It's not come from an academic writer. Not all the time anyway. It can be written and it can be edited by absolutely anyone. You could go on a Wikipedia page now and edit somebody's text or information, and that's not always checked. Can be updated at any time. So you could be using statistics off one page from 2020 and no one's updated it with the 2021 figures. Therefore, it's not accurate and it's not up to date and it can't be used in academic work. And it's not checked. Wikipedia as a company do not constantly check all the pages on their system. They don't fact check it, and it's not kind of up to them to make sure everything on there is the truth. It's a public source that can be updated at any time. However, and there is a big however, this can be used in some scenarios, and I'm going to go over that right now and explain sort of where we can tweak this a little bit and actually make some use of Wikipedia at some different parts. So you can see here then, I've got an example of a Sony Music Wikipedia page. I've just taken a screenshot of this just to highlight how we can actually use some of this information and fact check it ourselves before we then go ahead and put it into an essay. So I've highlighted a little number 3 there that's highlighted itself. It's clickable. You can click on it. If I was to click on that, it would then take me to this page. So this is at the bottom of every single Wikipedia page. It's the reference section, similar to what you put at the bottom of your own essay, your reference list. So remember, we clicked on number 3. If I'd have clicked on it in real time, it would have highlighted it here and shown which reference is attached to the number that I clicked. However, we know that it's number 3, so here it is highlighted for you to see. As you can see, reference number 3 is by Wang.A 2019. And it's an article from the Rolling Stone called Sony's Music Recording and Music Publishing Companies Are Now One. So we can use that as a reference. However, we wouldn't reference Wikipedia here. We'd reference Wang.A 2019 and would use that article title and Rolling Stone as the publisher in the reference list. Therefore, that is then a more trusted industry level source that we can use within our own work. This works for quite a lot of references on a standard Wikipedia page. However, there are a few non-academic ones on there or non-industry level ones that just be careful when you go down to the reference list that you are checking what those are and going through, clicking the link, going through to the website and seeing what that takes you to and ensuring that it's the correct thing that you actually want to use and the information in this reference list here that you can see is correct as well. Okay, so this then takes us to using EBSCO. EBSCO is our e-library here at BIM. It's an online library of academic sources for you to use anytime for free. It's free to all BIM students. And it's relatively easy to use. It's easy to reference from as well. So I'll do a separate video to demo how to use EBSCO. However, the quickest way here for you to access it is to go to bimstudents.com, log in, scroll down to where it says Virtual Library, click the link to access the EBSCO e-library, and then search for your texts. You can from there access full texts, do a full download of a text, search within a specific source. You can use keywords to search. And you can also make notes on specific sources that you might want to come back to. There's also a cite option on this, so it will give you some kind of citation. However, keep in mind it's not the BIM Harvard referencing system that we use, so you will have to translate this over using our own guidelines, and you can find these on the BIM Harvard referencing guide on the academic study skills page on Moodle. It's still good though for using to find the publisher and the location, and like I said, you just change the formatting over to the BIM Harvard referencing system. Okay, now when we ran this class as an extracurricular sign up, we set a breakout room task here. However, you can do this independently at home if you want. Using EBSCO, find a source that's relevant to a topic that you're currently studying. So pause this video, go away and do that. Access EBSCO, think about what you're currently working on and find a source that's relevant to that topic. We're just going to try out how easy it is to access EBSCO and sort of iron out any issues. If you do have any questions about accessing EBSCO or you have any problems doing that, please feel free to email me, jesskemp@bim.co.uk, and I'll be able to answer any questions that you have. Okay, so now we're going on to using Google Books and Google Scholar. These are both online libraries of academic and non-academic sources, as previously discussed. There's lots of free sources to use. Some sections are available, however, on some sources there's full books available. The ones that you can't access, you may have to go and buy off a separate website or see if there is a PDF version online somewhere. However, don't forget, a lot of sources that aren't available on Google Books are available on EBSCO, so make sure you carry out a double search for that. Similar to EBSCO, there's an easy to use search function on the left hand side of both of these programs. You can search within the text that you found for specific keywords, chapters, names, etc. And it's easy to use as well. Similar to EBSCO, I'm going to do a separate video demo to show you how to use Google Books and Google Scholar and hopefully clear up any confusion and answer any questions you may have there. And then similar to EBSCO, it's also very easy to reference from, with some hints and tips. My hints and tips here are, if you're struggling to find a publisher for the book you're looking at on Google Books or Google Scholar, you can take the book title and the author and put it into Amazon or Yahoo and search as if you were going to buy the physical copy of the book. If you then scroll down to product information, it usually gives the ISBN, the publisher location, things like that, and it also gives you information about different editions of the book as well. So that's always useful for when you're putting together your reference list to make sure it's in keeping with BIM's Harvard referencing guidelines. So another quick thing we just wanted to mention was the academic study skills page that's available on Moodle for everyone to use. It's full of really useful resources, up-to-date information, and all information regarding additional support that we've got available for you at BIM. Things like the study hubs, the study hub inbox, the drop-in virtual study spaces, things like that. So please make sure you regularly check on this page for up-to-date information, but also use it for one of the key tools for your study, because there's a lot of resources on there that are really useful. For example, if you scroll down on the academic study skills page, you'll then see all of these different tiles. So we've got things like how to reference your academic work, how to be more confident studying, how to write essays, how to develop your writing style, things like that. So within each of these tiles, there's different PowerPoints, talks, TED Talks, PDFs, worksheets, resources. Everything that you need is in there. If there's anything missing, again, please feel free to provide us with some feedback. We'd be more than happy to revise the page and add anything to fill any gaps that you might be able to see. So to find the academic study skills page on Moodle, you just need to log into Moodle, go to your dashboard, and it will be there with the rest of your modules on the main Moodle page. Feel free to come back to this at any time. So an individual task now, again, and get ready to pause this video, because what we'd like you to do is, using the Academic Study Skills Moodle page, find 3 resources that would be useful for your own studies right now. Remember, click on the tiles, look what's inside each one. Every single one's different. Have a watch of some of the videos on there. Have a look through the different sources that are referenced, the different worksheets, things like that, and sort of make some notes if there's anything that you might want to come back to at a later date. You might want to come back to this sort of regularly, especially as you move through your studies, because academic writing style is something that we can constantly be working on, and there's always things that we can do to develop, so make sure you make use of that page. Okay, so I mentioned this earlier on, and it's slightly irrelevant at the moment depending when you're watching this video. We're currently at the start of 2021 and we're still in a lockdown because of COVID-19. However, I just wanted to highlight sort of what a physical library can offer as opposed to an online library, because sometimes we can get through study without actually visiting a library. However, if you just take that step to sort of go and have a look at what they've got, it could actually make your research tasks a lot easier. So in a library, we can obviously study with friends, we can study alone or as a group, and that's quite useful because sometimes just working from home on your own, it can get a little bit sort of lonely, and sometimes it's good to have other people to bounce ideas off as well to generate more questioning and more content for your work. You can also chat with like-minded researchers, so sometimes when you're browsing a specific part of the library, you might come across someone who's also looking at the same shelf. Who knows, you could get into conversation with them and they might be researching something similar or the same, and from there you can then share ideas and build upon the work that you're already doing. It's obviously a quiet study space, so if you're struggling to find that, the library is a good hub to use. You can utilise a physical copy of a text and some additional resources which are not always available online. So make sure you chat to the librarians, to the people that work in the library, and they'll be able to advise you if there's anything extra that they can give. And you can also search using the library's database. So obviously somewhere like Central Library in Manchester is massive, it's huge. So trying to find a specific source might be quite difficult. However, you can use their sort of computer search system, and it'll tell you exactly where to go in the library to find that specific source that you need to use. It's obviously got a free membership. Not every library's free, but Central Library's free. You can get a free membership from there. You just need to go in and sign up basically, and then you'll get your library card. You can borrow a physical copy to take away. Some people prefer to work out of physical books, put little post-it notes in the top, things like that. So if you're one of them people that prefers a physical book, then a library's definitely for you. You can access sources that are grouped together. So whilst you're looking for one specific text, you might come across something else that you hadn't thought of before, and that then ultimately might come in really handy further down the line. And also, like I said, the people that work in the library know a lot about the specific areas that they're working in. So ask questions about those sources. Ask them if there's anything else that you might want to look at, if there's anything that you're missing, if there's anything that they can advise. And there tends to be quite a good answer back and something that can help you out. So make sure you ask those questions and you get chatting while you're in there. Okay, so internet search tips. So when we're searching the internet, rather than just searching for one specific phrase, we might want to search specific keywords, thinking about possible synonyms as well. What are other ways of saying one specific word that you're looking for? Consider American spellings. Sometimes if you're on a UK internet browser and your server is obviously based in the UK and you're looking for something that's got an Americanized spelling, it might not always come up, and vice versa as well. So you need to make sure that the spellings are correct for the place that you're searching in. And to search for a phrase, you can also use quotation marks. So if you're looking for a specific quote that you've previously seen somewhere else or you've used in your work and you want to find the rest of that article, then you can just place it in quotes and it'll find it exactly that word for word, and it'll show you all the web pages that include that specific quote. We then have something called Boolean searching. So this is a technique that you can use to sort of really narrow down your search. You can use plus and minus symbols to refine your search. For example, media plus crime will find articles which list both of these words, whereas media minus crime will find articles that only include the word media and not crime, if you know what I mean. So you need to make sure you're using the correct symbol there, but also not putting any spaces in it either. You need to make sure it's all kind of condensed together for that to work. So this is Boolean searching. You can see here on this diagram, we've got and or not. So to search for puppy and kitten, you would find articles with both terms in there. You can then search for puppy or kitten, and that would find articles which list either one or both of those. And then you can search for puppy not kitten. So that would find articles with just puppy in it and not the word kitten. If necessary, use search engine filters to put in date order. So if you're using a research paper and you're wanting to find sources for that, you're wanting to find the most relevant ones, for example, and the most up to date, you need to make sure you're putting those Google search results in date order, because you don't want to use an out of date source or something that's irrelevant for the piece of work you're sort of carrying on with. And we can also use Control and F. This, when you press this, it'll pop up a little search box and you can search a web page for a specific keyword. So if it's a web page with quite a lot of text, you can click Control and F and then search for that specific word. It'll find it on the page and it'll highlight it, and then from there you can read around it. So we're now going to look at how to check for reliability and validity, how to make sure these sources that we found are reliable and are valid. So one technique we can use is something called the CRAP test. The CRAP test is a simple and very useful tool when you're trying to figure out whether an online source is credible and can be used in academic writing. However, there's 5 criteria and we're going to go over them now. C is for currency, and this is talking about how recent something is rather than talking about currency in terms of money. So we ask ourselves questions such as, when was this information published or posted online? Does your topic area require the most recent information? Relevance. Is it useful for your purposes? So ask yourself questions such as, is this information relevant to your topic? Is the source of a suitable level for your purposes? A is for authority, and this is all about the author's credentials. So who is the author? Where have they come from? What qualifies them to be talking about this specific topic? What's their experience? A is for accuracy, asking questions such as, is the information accurate? Is it based on evidence with references? And are there references there actually physically to see? And P is for purpose. Ask questions such as, why was this information published or posted in the first place? Does the author come across as impartial, or are they coming across as biased? We need to make sure this is a fair account if we're going to use it in academic writing. And this straightforward test is surprisingly effective, and after using it for a while it becomes a natural and quick part of your secondary research. You can use the CRAP test correctly and regularly, and it's unlikely that you'll be marked down for using untrustworthy sources again. So here we've got a more detailed plan of the CRAP test with some more in-depth questioning attached to that. And what I'll do is I'll remove all the boxes and then you can pause the video and have a look at this in more detail. But we've got the currency questioning, relevance and the questioning associated with that, authority and the questions, accuracy and purpose. So if you want, pause the video, have a look at this, take a screenshot. However, this is also on the Academic Study Skills page on Moodle on the Research tab, so you can have a look at that one. So the next bit here is how to read for academic study, and we're going to talk about different styles of reading. So first up, where to read. Thinking about environments here, so reading in natural light as opposed to in the dark. Having regular breaks to make sure we don't overload ourselves with information. Making sure we're comfortable and that we're free from distractions, and always at a time of day that suits you. So maybe you prefer reading first thing in the morning when the brain's fresh and you've only just woken up, or perhaps you prefer winding down at the night and reading then because it's easier to take in information. Maybe using a commute as your reading time. Everybody's different, but make sure you're considering what your reading environment is and how you work best, and make sure you return to that each time you have to do some reading or you want to do some reading. Be an active reader, so set your goals prior to starting to read, and you can use these goals to focus on the parts of the text that are the most relevant. Your brain's only going to absorb so much information, so it's vital that you're selective in this process. This slide links really nicely to our other extracurricular class that we've been running, the literature review classes, how to write a high-level literature review. If you're interested in this, This will also be on the same Academic Study Skills Moodle page under the tab How to Write a Higher Level Literature Review. Please give this a watch if you're planning to write research methods paper or a dissertation, as this is something that you'll need to know, and it's an area that we can constantly develop and work on. And thinking about reading, there's lots of different types of reading. So we have glance reading, and this is where you would look at a title, a blurb on the front or back of a page, or the inner sleeve, and think about whether that source is relevant to you. At a glance, you will know whether it is or whether it isn't. If it is, read a little bit deeper. If it isn't, move on to the next source. We then have scan reading, so looking at the contents page, an index page, or maybe even an introduction, and from there you'll be able to figure out whether or not you need to delve deeper into that source to find the information that you need next. We also have skim reading, so this is where you will read introductions, conclusions, chapters, looking out for keywords and names, and if you can't find them on an initial scan, maybe it's the wrong source, or maybe you need to delve a little bit deeper. More types of reading include speed reading. So this is where you would read the main text using speed reading methods, so moving across the page left to right in the quickest way possible and only picking out the key phrases and key words. And again, at a glance you'll know whether this is the right source for you. Concentrated reading is something where you would read a text a lot deeper. You'll take in the meaning of the words, you'll synthesize that in your mind and figure out whether or not that's something that you're going to then use at a later date, or whether you want to take some notes on it. That's concentrated reading. So we then have another technique called the SQ3R method. S in this method is for survey. This is where you would skim the information in order to find specific facts, quotes, sources, references, things like that. From there you move on from survey onto question. And this is where you would question if the source is what you need. If it's not, like I said earlier, you move on. If it is, you delve deeper and look for more information. And then this is where the 3R comes into the SQ3R. We have 3 R's. The first one is read. Read with a purpose. Scan and then focus on concentrated reading. Read a little bit deeper, go a little bit further. We then have recall. So this is where you provide a good check on understanding, and it also helps with memory. So think back to when you were a child and you were learning how to spell. It was the write, cover, check system. So you write, cover, check. You write a word down, you cover it up, you write it down again, and you check whether it was right. You then revise. So this is the 3rd R. Revisit key points for assignment or exam purposes. So thinking about revising for an essay, revising for an exam, you need to then remember that information and really let it sink in and focus on it. Ready for the next time, you'll then need to extract that and use it for something else. Okay, so we've got another activity here, and this is an activity that you can do individually, and you can sort of report the answers back to us if you want to. So I'm going to show you the next slide, and there's 8 boxes. You then need to just pick one of the boxes and go away and complete the task associated with it. So I'll show you that now on the next slide. Okay, so pick one of these questions, pause this slide and choose a question. Pick one that you don't already know the answer to, obviously, otherwise the task will be pointless. But choose a question, pause the slide, and then I'll move on to the next one. So what I want you to do now with that question is research and find one ebook, one web source, and one video source that answers that question. Remember, you're looking for the answer, but you also need to make sure that these are valid, reliable, and credible sources that you're using. Make a note of your answers on this Google Form sheet, and if you have any questions about that, please come to us via email in a study hub or using the study hub inbox, and we'll be happy to help you out. So bring this back to our initial plan of learning for this extracurricular class. Think about how easy it was to do those searches. How easy was it to find those valid and credible and reliable sources? Did you have to do a little bit more digging, or were they just there waiting for you? Think about the reading style that you used, the skimming, the concentrated reading, the deeper reading. How easy was that to do? How difficult was it to do? make sure you make a note of these on your Google form. And finally, remember, we've got lots of things on for academic study support here at BIM. Please make sure you use these services that we're doing. We've got the Study Hub drop-in on Zoom. These run on Mondays, Wednesdays and Thursdays. The Zoom links are on the Academic Study Skills page right at the top, so please feel free to use those and drop in anytime you want. We have the Academic Hub inbox. You can email us at studyhubsmanchester@bim.co.uk for any academic inquiry. Send us a draft, send us a question, and we'll aim to respond to that as quickly as possible. We also have a virtual study space up and running on Tuesdays and Fridays, so don't study alone. Come along, use the online space to have a chat, to listen into some music, or just kind of share working practice with other peers and tutors and stuff like that. It's better than sort of being sat at home on your own in this scenario. You can see that there's a BIM study room on there at the moment. We're in a lockdown, so that's not currently running. However, if you're listening to this after the lockdown, please make sure you check the Academic Study Skills page, as this may now be back up and running, and our availability and timings will be on the page there. Thank you for watching. If you have any more questions or you want any more information, please email myself or Donna Berwick at bim.co.uk, and we'll come back to you as soon as possible. Thank you for watching.